Sunday. It is July the 3rd. It is 12:38 p.m. in the afternoon here in California. I do understand that in different parts of the world it's different times. I guess I sometimes forget that. Anyway. For those of you in the US that are celebrating the long weekend, just wanted to wish you well. And today I would like to talk about my process in visualization. And I just wanted to give out some of the things that I've visualized over the years that have worked for me, and perhaps they will work for you. I've talked about these in previous videos, but I don't think I've ever really sat down and really focused on just the visualization and talked about kind of, where they came from, why I'm choosing these particular things to visualize. I think these might be things people are interested in that are attempting to either shift realities or astral project. I use these particular visualizations for both, by the way, guys. I use it for both when I astral project or when I shift a reality. Now, for those of you who might be new to my channel, I am capable of doing both. And the way that I'm able to do that is to reach what I call the sweet spot, or the place between being asleep and awake. Once I get to that place, there is a choice for me to be able to go and astral project or to shift realities. And if I wish to astral project, now I've done this before, so I'll tell you specifically what I've done. Once I got to that point, instead of just laying there and just kind of allowing the shift to happen, because that's what will happen nowadays if I don't do anything, what I do is I roll out of my body at that point. Or I could probably float upwards, but for me, what seems to work the best is rolling out of my body if I'm going to astral project. If I'm going to shift, I don't do anything. I just allow the shift to happen. And the shifts happen in various ways. They could happen through movement, and this was one of the earliest ways that I would shift. So in other words, once I would reach that sweet spot, what would begin to happen is either I would start to move. Maybe I would start to move to the left or to the right, up or down. Now I would feel my entire body in movement when this would happen. There would be no separation, but they were very specific movements. I almost felt like I was on a platter or something, like I would move left or I'd move right, or my legs might move up or they might move down, and I would feel myself accelerating in whatever direction my body pointed to. So just to give you guys sort of an explanation to what I mean by once I reach that place, I have a choice. Either I don't do anything and I'll allow a shift to occur, or I roll out of my body and suddenly I'm on the astral plane. So that's how I'm able to accomplish both. But the key here, and I'm sure I always get these questions like, but how do you get to that point? Well, it takes practice of being able to get to that place between being asleep and awake. But trust me when I tell you, I think everybody goes to that place. I think the difference is that not many people think of grabbing onto it once you're there. So it's like you arrive, think of yourself walking on to a bridge, right? So we have the conscious world, then we have a bridge. And you might actually be able to imagine this. This is one of the ways that I come up with visualizations. I think in terms of analogies and things that are easy for my mind to perceive. So on one side of this bridge is the conscious world. On the other side of this bridge is the dream, the place where we dream. And in the middle is what I call the sweet spot. That's the middle place. Now, what I have been able to accomplish is I've been able to, as I've started going over that bridge, I'm able to go, okay, wait a minute, turn on a light, my consciousness, and I'm able to perceive things in that middle place. And that's how I'm able to go either to the astral plane or to shifting realities. That is the place that I go to, that bridge. I'm standing on that bridge. Now, if I'm unable to recognize as I'm crossing the bridge, if I'm unable to recognize it, then I will go to the other side and I'll dream. And then, I'll wake up just like everybody else does. But it's interesting because since I have really started, especially since I've started the whole shifting thing, it's been very interesting. Dreams and other things have become so much clearer. And I don't know for those of you who shift or project out there if that's also happened to you. But here I am going off on a tangent. Let me get into my visualizations for you guys as we go along here. So one of the first things that I visualized when I was 9 years old, and for those of you who haven't listened to that video of the first time I astral projected, that's when I talk about it. I had a childhood friend who told me about astral projection. And by the way, there was no internet back then. It was, 1978, 79, which gives you an idea of how old I am. I'm old, and I will be turning 54 very, very soon here. So back then there was no internet, and he told me about this, and I thought, whatever. I mean, I was 9 years old, but I've always been a pretty rational and logical person. That has always been a part of who I am. And so when I heard it, even at the age of 9, I was like, okay, sounds pretty cool, but I don't know if that's possible or not. But he told me to visualize myself in a bubble of light. So in other words, you would imagine yourself maybe laying down in bed, to be specific, like in your bed, like you picture yourself, and you picture almost like a bubble of light around you. I guess you could think of it as a force field in a way. That's what I was thinking of, I guess. I don't know. But I made sure that it covered me entirely. Now, I know that people have talked about, people in the New Age community talk about putting a white light around you. And that's stuff that I learned later on. I wasn't really even thinking about that. I know that he had said that that's what you would visualize. That's what he would visualize. So when it happened the first time, when I astral projected and I visualized that, I visualized it right as I went into that in-between state. So interesting. I was 9 years old. That was 40 plus years ago. I could sit here without notes or anything and repeat to you exactly what happened that first time. It's so, because it is an experience. It's a memory that I will never, ever forget. But what I remember was that once I reached that middle place, I was able to visualize this, myself with a white light around me. And as soon as I did that, I felt this tingling sensation and I started to rise. Now, did that visualization of me being surrounded by a bubble of light, did that contribute to me being able to rise out of my body in that moment? I think, this is what I think. I think that my thought that it would help me to get out of my body is what actually got me out of my body. The fact that I was thinking, well, once I visualize this could happen as a result. And that's what it was. it again goes back to my attitude, not necessarily the visualization. I'm using the visualization to back up my intent of wanting to be out there. I don't know if that makes sense, but the visualization is a way for me to back that up. But really, what's getting me out there is the intent itself of wanting to go out of my body. Another form of visualization I use is imagining a third eye, and I imagine it glowing at the center of my forehead. That's a pretty straightforward thing. And what I imagine is that it activates, right? So I'm sitting there imagining my forehead as being normal, and then I imagine it turning on almost like a light or something, and it's a golden third eye, and it's sitting there, and I visualize that. That's something that has worked for me as well in the past. There's another thing that I've talked about where I have talked about imagining myself on a hill or a mountain with a white rope. Now, everyone, a lot of people in the astral projection community know about what they call the rope technique. That's been something that's been talked about quite a bit. I guess I don't see it. I don't visualize it exactly how people talk about when they talk about the rope technique. For me, I visualize myself holding a white rope, and for whatever reason, I visualize or I think of it as a white rope, and I'm standing on a mountain and I'm holding on to this rope, right? And what I visualize or think about is the fact that it reminds me that at a certain point, when I reach that in-between place, or when I reach the middle of that bridge, then I would let go. And then I would be conscious, and then boom, I would be able to go in astral projector, shift realities. Again, this is not something that I've used really consistently. I have used there's another technique that I use when I shift, where I am pushing against space itself. And that's something I've talked about before. I just imagine my hands pushing against space, and people have asked me, well, what do you mean by pushing against space? Well, first of all, space surrounds us. I'm not talking about outer space, like when we're, traveling past the planets or whatnot. I'm talking about the space that surrounds us, because we're surrounded by space. So I just imagine myself pushing on, like I could imagine myself pushing on space, I don't know, just sitting in my room pushing on space. That's what I would imagine. And it's as if I'm pushing through three-dimensional space. And that's what I think of it as. It's like my hands are penetrating three-dimensional space. So those are a few of the visualizations that I use. And by the way, a real quick thing here. There are people who deal with blindness, what they call astral blindness. And I've heard this. I've seen this so many times on the subreddit. People say they can't see once they get into the astral plane. Like they're blind. One of the things that I use in that regard is I think of a set of eyes beneath my eyes. And I actually practice this when I'm conscious, where I'll close my eyes and I imagine another set of eyes underneath. So I'll practice opening them in my imagination. And when I get out there into the field, I guess you could call it, once I'm out there, it works. I'm able to open my eyes that are beneath my eyelids, and there's no risk of me opening my eyes, my physical eyes, and kind of taking me out of the experience. So that might be something you can use. I've also used this when I've shifted, because when I come to a place, it's dark and it does take time for things to kind of come up. And sometimes I have had an issue sort of seeing a little bit. And I've used that technique as well, where I open my eyes beneath my eyes. I hope this is helpful, guys. I really do. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. And until next time, take care.